Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and of course, hit the little bell in the corner where the subscribe button is so you can be notified of any live events. Don't forget our big live event tonight, 11:30 tonight, UK time. We'll be having the great debate with Bo Bland from Truth and Facts About Boxing and Eugene, and they'll be talking. The debate will be who wins between Rigondeaux and Lomachenko. Our star guest will be toe to toes Sky Sports Boxing pundit Spencer Ferron, and we'll have Gail Falkenthal, who will be firing the questions off, and we'll have Mike from Pound for Pound Boxing moderating. So I'm looking forward to it tonight. It's going to be a great night of entertainment. Before we kick things off there, we'll be talking to the trainer of Gennady Golovkin and Murat Gassiev, among other fighters. Abel Sanchez join us at 8 p.m. tonight. Abel Sanchez live on BWTM Sports. Last night we had Tunde Ajayi. Tonight we've got Abel Sanchez in good company. Okay, so let's get into this one. Billy Joe Saunders versus David Lemieux. Before we begin this, I was really hoping that, Chris Eubank Jr. would have gone along the lines of fighting a David Lemieux, what's the other guy, Curtis Stevens. That's the sort of guys I would have liked to have seen him fight. Instead, he went down the road of Arthur Abraham, and of course now he's in the Super 8 tournament. Billy Joe Saunders, I'll take you back to the time he had that dire performance against Wolverine in the Leisure Centre. I think that might have been an all-time low for Billy Joe Saunders. The Andy Lee fight was a good fight for him. Terrible fight for Andy Lee. And I blame Andy Lee's trainer, Adam Booth. I continue to blame him for that. And you'll see the correlation in a minute. I blame Adam Booth specifically because Andy Lee is a puncher. He's a boxer second. He's a puncher first and foremost. And so when I look at Andy Lee coming to fight against Billy Joe Saunders, I expected Andy Lee to put pressure on Saunders early, landing big bombs and making Saunders have to work. So in the second half of the fight, Lee could have come into the fight. Instead, Lee decided to box with a superior boxer, and we all know what happened. Saunders landed two big punches and dropped Lee twice in the fight. And even though later on in the fight, Lee was trying to come back and close the fight out, Saunders had enough wherewithal to win that fight. Been a reoccurring story of Billy Joe Saunders. Starts fast in fights, but then tires down the stretch. I know what you're going to say to me. Yeah, but he's got that Dominic Ingle now. He looks in great shape. Yes, he did look in good shape against William Monroe. I'll give him that. However, let me just state, William Monroe looked like he had bigger demons fighting himself in the ring. William Monroe didn't know if he wanted to win the fight or he just wanted to give up, because William Monroe put on a Jekyll and Hyde performance. Watching William Monroe Jr. fight, and you were thinking, he's got skills here. And then the next minute you're seeing him actually giving up on himself. So it was a Jekyll and Hyde performance. Coming back to Andy Lee, I would like to see Andy Lee really have put pressure on Billy Joe and really try to land bombs as a puncher rather than a boxer. The reason why I say this is because we would have got a more conclusive idea of how good Billy Joe Saunders' chin really is. Yes, he got hit by Chris Eubank Jr. and he took what Eubank Jr. had, and at the high levels, I don't think Eubank Jr. is that big a puncher, to be honest. He's more of a cumulative sort of 4-5 punch, hit you, dazzle you, and then overload you with punches, as opposed to a one-punch knockout artist. That being said, the guy he fought in the Super 8 tournament knocked him out in the third round. We didn't know much about him in the first place, but it was still an impressive knockout performance. So that sounds kind of contradictory, but who has Eubank knocked out of world class? Well, we'll have to wait and see about that. So we talk about Billy Joe Saunders and David Lemieux. Now, David Lemieux, when people will talk about Lemieux versus Golovkin being a good fight, I said to people, listen, let's get something very categorically clear here. David Lemieux is a puncher. And to that, I will continue by saying he's an ignorant puncher. People say, oh, it's a bit harsh. What I mean by ignorant puncher is just that he just throws punches. Just there's no technique behind what he does. When I look at David Lemieux, there's no sort of what's the plan here, what's going on. It's just like caveman violence, sort of coming throw punches, bombing away, and there's nothing wrong with that. That leaves you very limited with the David Lemieux style. Lemieux is very limited. He punches. That's it. Don't expect Lemieux to box because forget it. And this is what happened with when he fought Gennady Golovkin. As soon as Gennady started putting a jab in his face and started giving a bit of movement, Lemieux looked out of water, looked out of sea. But still, even against the great Gennady Golovkin, Lemieux was able to land his bombs. And you've seen if your chin is not good enough or not up to the standard it needs to be against a big punching Lemieux, what can happen to you? Ask Curtis Stevens. So, this fight is interesting because you look at it on paper and you look at the two guys, you go, Billy Joe Saunders, yeah, he's class. He's got all the skill in the world. He's got great combination, good footwork. He's a very good boxer, very, very good boxer. Underrated in many circles, Billy Joe Saunders. Some people don't like him because of the things that come out of his mouth. I does say some silly things, Billy, but he means no harm. He is a good guy. I have met him on a number of occasions, and he's just one of the lads, and he's a nice guy, not really appreciated, but he's a very, very good boxer. The question marks about Billy Joe Saunders are down the stretch. As I said, does he tire? He's got Dominic Ingle in his corner. Yeah, I know he's got Dominic Ingle in his corner now, but Dominic Ingle is not God. And it's good to see Billy Joe Saunders fighting back to back. That's great to have. But even in the Dominic Ingle era that starts now, Billy Joe Saunders was still getting caught by Willie Monroe, and Willie Monroe is not a puncher. And if you look at any of Billy Joe Saunders fights, for all his boxing skill and his talent and his ability, he tends to switch off in fights. And that could be a fitness thing and a stamina thing. He doesn't want to be running out of stamina against David Lemieux down the stretch. He certainly doesn't, because Lemieux has got the power to knock him out. I think Saunders is he's a hurtful enough puncher. I wouldn't say he's a one-punch knockout artist at world level, but I think he's a decent puncher. He doesn't allow, nobody's going to run straight through Billy Joe Saunders. He boxes and he hits hard enough, respectfully enough. But there are two things Saunders has to be careful of in this fight. Firstly, he's fighting a genuine middleweight who is a genuine one-punch knockout artist. One-punch knockout artist means he just needs one opportunity. Now, you total that up with Billy Joe Saunders always gives you that one opportunity. I hope and I pray for the sake of Billy Joe Saunders that he doesn't underestimate the punching power of David Lemieux. I certainly hope also he doesn't look at the Golovkin tape and think that he's Golovkin, because Golovkin hits mighty harder than Billy Joe Saunders. And whether he's got the power to discourage Lemieux early is going to be interesting, very interesting. The other thing is Billy Joe Saunders is fighting away from home. He's fighting in Canada. Is that a problem? Yeah, that's a problem, because hey, he's fighting Lemieux in Canada. There's always the possibility that if it goes to the scorecards, they might rob all Billy now. I'm not trying to put it out there, but there have been lesser fights than Billy Joe Saunders against David Lemieux where your robberies has come about. So we've seen robberies happen in the UK. We've seen them happen abroad. So there's always a possibility there as well. So Billy Joe Saunders, for me, has to box. He has to keep moving. He mustn't allow David Lemieux to set his feet and plant them punches. He's going to keep that southpaw right jab in Lemieux's face all night long, keeping his bust him up, slip and slide and slip to the side. Do not stay. Do not go back in straight lines and keep moving. He's got to give Lemieux angles. He's got to keep giving Lemieux angles. Once he holds his feet and he stands in front of Lemieux, that is dangerous for Billy Joe Saunders, because Lemieux, as we know, can take you out with one shot. So for me, it's vitally important that Billy Joe Saunders keeps on the move. I don't mean running now. I mean on the move, where he throws his shots and slips to the sides, that he's able to give Saunders and Lemieux angles. Lemieux doesn't know how to deal with angles. He doesn't know how to deal with guys that can box of a high level of boxing. He doesn't know what to do that. All he knows is the caveman come straight forward and throw bombs. And he'll swing from the rooftops. That's one thing with David Lemieux. He's going to be swinging from round 1 to round 12. There's no science behind what David Lemieux does. It's just straightforward. I'm coming to knock you out, and it's exciting. And that's what makes this fight exciting. Billy Joe Saunders, I would say, arguably, this is the biggest puncher Saunders is fighting in his career. And it's all well and good doing what you're doing against all the other people and the style and all that stuff. Is can you do it against the biggest punches in the division? And this is another test, because I've said to myself, I've said it many times, I think Billy Joe Saunders would give Gennady Golovkin fits for the first 6 rounds of fight, the first 6, because Golovkin, like Canelo, they don't like movers. You don't believe me? Look at Golovkin when he fought Brook. Look at Golovkin when he fought Jacobs, and now look when he fought Canelo. They don't like movers. Say what you want about Golovkin, he doesn't like movers. He wants guys that come straight at him. And one of the reasons why Golovkin's knockout ratio has reduced, Jacobs and Canelo, is because these guys are not staying right in front of Golovkin. They're doing their work and they're shifting to the sides, which means Golovkin has to now move his body weight and then has to reset. So Golovkin's constantly having to reset. So you can't really get full leverage behind the shots. And those guys at a high level are not allowing them to do that. This could be the case with Billy Joe Saunders. He may not give Lemieux the opportunities to land the big punches, but in their history of Billy Joe Saunders, and I like to look at fighters' history and what they do in repeated patterns. Billy Joe Saunders tires down the stretch, and in all of his fights, he holds his feet at some point. He starts to tire, and he gives you the opportunity to get back in a fight. And he also gives you the opportunity to crack him on the whiskers. Those things he cannot afford to be making at this level of boxing, because say we want David Lemieux not being a boxer, I think he's a world-class puncher. And for the record, the best puncher that Billy Joe Saunders has faced in his career to this point. But I still think he would give Golovkin fits. Whether he'd beat Golovkin down the stretch is another matter altogether. But he's got what it takes to, he's got all the tools in the box. I think Billy Joe Saunders is far better boxer than Kell Brook. But whether he could do it down the stretch for 12 rounds, it's interesting. Button Cracker and no Cracker says, sorry, I just can't get past Saunders' deplorable behaviour leading up to Monroe fight. For example, with his son hitting Monroe in the crotch, sickening. Yes, it is quite. It is quite. From a boxing standpoint, Billy Joe Saunders knew that there was a possibility that William Monroe was mentally weak, and it helped him in the fight. Believe me, it helped him, because Monroe was fighting himself. I've never seen a guy box. We had so many demons inside himself. He didn't know if he wanted to quit, whether he wanted to fight, whether he didn't want to be there, whether he's a boxer. He was the most confusing Jekyll and Hyde performance I've ever seen from a boxer of recent times. So unsure of himself, Monroe, and I think that had a lot to do with what happened in the pre-fight. Really, Billy Joe got inside of his head, and Billy Jones is good with the old, mental games. Tanker says, Kay says, decent scrap. He needs to win definitely via knockout or numerous knockdowns to win. I agree. Billy Joe Saunders is not his son, mate. Billy Joe Saunders is not his son, mate. What do you mean? It wasn't his son. I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. Hope there's no robbery. I hope so. So Golovkin's getting long in the tooth as well. I agree. Brook has had GGG in his pocket until up to the eye injury. I agree. Billy Joe Saunders won't wear down. Dominic Ingle has improved his fitness by miles. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Because you can't really say that because Monroe didn't bring it. Monroe allowed Saunders to box his normal, comfortable weight. So the only way that pressure is going to be tested is that when the bombs start flying from Lemieux, and Saunders has to work. We'll see how much that Dominic Ingle fitness is as fitting. I'm not convinced that in one fight everything's fixed. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. I think it takes time for a trainer, at least a year for a trainer to really start to see the benefits of being with a trainer. So, yes, Billy's is in better shape, but how can you judge he's in better shape until he's in a fight that requires him to have that fitness tested? And I'm sorry, the Monroe fight is not that fight where his fitness was tested. No way, because Monroe, as I said, didn't bring the pressure, didn't bring the heat. So, what are your thoughts on the fight? Do you think Lemieux can win fights? To win the fight? Don't forget, we'll be talking to Abel Sanchez at 8 p.m. tonight. Abel Sanchez will give us a preview of Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux. He'll also talk to us about Billy Joe Saunders versus David Lemieux. And he'll also give us the updates on Golovkin versus Canelo 2 and Garcia's fight against Ortiz, which is coming up in the Super 8 tournament. And he'll probably give us a prediction for Groves versus Eubank Jr. I'm sure he's got plenty to say about that. So, there's nothing else anyone else has to say. I wish Billy Joe Saunders the very best in Canada. I sincerely hope that he doesn't give Lemieux too many opportunities. I think Saunders can stop Lemieux. But if he stops Lemieux, I think he'll stop him later. You'll have to be careful because Lemieux, for the first 4 to 5 rounds, first 6 rounds, Lemieux's going to be very dangerous. And the second half of the fight, Saunders better hope and pray that his fitness is up to task, because if it isn't, and Lemieux's around in rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and Saunders has a tendency to tire and hold his feet, that's when Lemieux has his greatest chance of winning the fight. So, those are my thoughts. Billy Joe Saunders, as far as I'm concerned now, is fighting the best fighter on his resume. I don't think Eubank Jr. punches as hard as David Lemieux. He's not. I mean, Eubank is intense, but again, he started the fight slowly. This guy will start the fight fast, and he's saying he had the best camp of his career. Well, we'll see about that. Right, I've got not much more to say. See you at 8 o'clock with Abel Sanchez. Of course, a great debate at 11:30 tonight. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave your comments. I'm out of here. Take care.